Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, review of the week time. Actually, I love making these videos, the review of the week videos. It's just so fun to just chuck all the kind of weekly boxing into one video. I like doing these, I really do. We've a lot to talk about, not in terms of fights that have happened on the weekend. Normally if there's fights I missed, I would kind of talk about them now. But to be honest with you people, there have been very few fights, other than some of the small hall shows that went on in the UK, which I didn't pay much attention to. There wasn't really any fight, certainly of note anyway, over the weekend. Martin Bacoli did have a fight last night, got a first round knockout. The guy was 11-2 and he was like way overweight. So there's not really much to say about that. But there's potentially him facing Filip Hrgovic next, which I'm looking. If that fight gets made, that's an interesting fight. Favour Hrgovic definitely. I think we'll see a better Hrgovic than we did last time. I think Hrgovic fought at the level of his opponent. You know, he came in a bit fleshy, didn't look particularly in great shape, just did not look at the races in that fight. You know, was superior, much superior, but he just kind of, you get the impression he didn't really take that fight too serious, and you could kind of tell in the ring. So that was Hrgovic. We got a lot of fights announced though. It has to be said, we got plenty of fights announced this week. We also got a fight, like, there's talk of Jaime Munguia making a fight against Gabe Rosado. That's going to be an interesting. Gabe Rosado back down at 160, considering his last fight was at 168 against the bully Melikuziev. That's interesting. I can see why they're doing that. And, you know, Munguia is still a Golden Boy fighter as far as I believe. You know, Munguia is definitely Golden Boy, I think, still. And Rosado, the lad, that win over Melikuziev was on a Golden Boy card, so it makes sense. You know, Gabe Rosado, he is one of them. He has a journeyman's record, but he's better than that. He is very much game. He comes to win. Be interesting. Will he be able to get over the because you could kind of say, right, the bully, he really did try and just overwhelm Gabe Rosado, and Gabe Rosado was able to walk him onto something. It's kind of similar to Munguia, although you would probably say the bully is he's bigger, probably hits harder. Technically is a little bit better than Munguia. Munguia still is a bit crude, it has to be said, but Munguia is every bit relentless. So that'd be an interesting fight. Be an interesting fight to watch. Obviously the fights we got announced, which were the zone cards, well, we'll start them in chronological order. So Mikey Garcia will face Sandor Martin on October 16th in California. I like Mikey Garcia, I do. He's got a fun style to watch. But he said it himself that he's really only in it for the money now. And I seen pictures of him last year where he was literally looking like a cruiserweight. He was looking way out of shape. So with Mikey Garcia, I get the impression that his days in boxing are numbered. And I get the impression that he's really just looking for a big cash out fight, sail off into the sunset, goodbye, see you later. You know, been there, worn the t-shirt. Sandor Martin, I reckon Mikey will be okay in that fight. It just depends on what he does after it. You know, as I said, he's not really... He's in it for the money now at this stage, Mikey Garcia is. You know, there was a time where I really thought him against Lomachenko was going to happen. And I thought that would have been a great fight, him against Lomachenko. Ain't ever going to see that fight now. I certainly don't think anyway. But, look, we'll watch space. We'll see what he does. Derek Chisora, Joseph Parker was announced as well. It's on the same day as Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall. Personally, I prefer the Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall fight. I think there's more chance of that being entertaining. I think Josh Taylor will win it, don't get me wrong. But I think Jack Catterall to be just able to bring... He'll make that fight interesting. He'll make it more fun. That fight first time, oh my God, it was just such a stinker, wasn't it? Parker just... I've given up saying... I've just given up the ghost saying I think he'll bring it. I think he'll do it. He's disappointed me that many times. He'll probably win on points, but in terms of him being able to, he frustrates the hell out of me. He's got so much ability, so much raw talent, so much potential. He just doesn't use it. And I've given up just saying maybe this time he'll bring it together. Whatever happens, happens on that fight. I will watch it. I'll do a post-fight after it as well, but I just don't care. You know, I just don't care. I thought against Junior Fa, he would bring someone, because it's an all New Zealand clash in New Zealand. Nope. New trainer, Andy Lee, Derek Chisora. All right, we're going to see Parker. We're going to see him. Nope. And I thought stylistically Chisora would actually bring out something in Joseph Parker, because stylistically, when Parker's fought guys who come at him and who pressure him and who swing, he normally tends to look quite good. But nope. Well, hopefully in December maybe he will finally prove me wrong. Maybe. And obviously Dillian Whyte versus Otto Wallen got announced. Again, that fight really, it pleasantly surprised me. I thought Dillian Whyte would be going an easy touch, Jermaine Franklin or Chris Arreola. Whether you consider Chris Arreola an easy touch, I still would, personally. I know he was in good shape against Andy Ruiz, but let's forget, this is a guy who got a one-armed Deontay Wilder beaten black and blue, 5 years ago? Yeah, 5 years ago. So, yeah, look, Chris Arreola, definitely, he'd seen better days many years ago. So I kind of thought that was going to be, if they announced him against Dillian Whyte, easy enough, straight enough fight for Dillian Whyte. Otto Wallin is like, he's above European level in my opinion. He's tricky. A big, tall southpaw who's a real slash and puncher. I really don't know why they felt look, I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. I mean, am I upset? No, it's a good fight. But I just don't understand why Dillian Whyte felt the need for it. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I'm glad at the same time. I mean, fair play to him. Big up to Dillian Whyte. He's not going to sit on his mandatory and just take easy fights. He's taken, in my opinion, a guy who gave Tyson Fury a much harder fight than Deontay Wilder did in the rematch. So, credit to Dillian Whyte. I think he'll win this fight. I do. I think that Wallin, he is a good boxer. And, he had a good win against Dominic Brazil, albeit he's the only guy not to stop or hurt Dominic Brazil. But nevertheless, he was able to show good boxing ability. So it'll be interesting to see. I just think Dillian Whyte will be able to find, Otto Wallin. His straight right hand is not amazing, but the straight right hand is the best punch against a southpaw. Some people would say it's the left hook, but it really is the straight right hand. And I think Dillian Whyte should be able to, I think he might be able to walk Otto Wallin onto a left hook. He might be able to. I think Otto Wallin gets sometimes a little bit too much credit for the Fury display. I think that maybe Fury saw him as another Tom Schwartz and was shocked to find out, oh no, he's not. So watch this. We'll wait and see. It's a good fight. Pleasantly surprised. I really didn't expect it. It was one of the names I really didn't think. I thought we're getting the Jermaine Franklin, Otto Wallin, maybe Charles Martin, but Otto Wallin, Halloween. I've got no complaints. Conor Benn has signed a multi-fight deal with Eddie Hearn, set to be back out in December. Look, I want to see Conor Benn, put him in there with a top 10 opponent. Just roll the dice. Roll the dice with him, because I don't want to see him against, faded contenders. Because I then make it out as though he's beaten, world beaters. Don't put him in against faded contenders for the next year and a half, 2 years. If you believe in Conor Benn, roll the dice with him. Roll the dice. He can come back if he loses. It's not the end of the world. Roll the dice. Try and get him a fight with a top 10 guy and see what happens. Don't just keep recycling guys like Adrian Granados, Sammy Vargas. See what this guy can do. That's what I say. Just see what he can do. Michael McKinson even. Let's see what this guy can do. Price of AJ Usyk, as I suspected, is £25. The Sky are going to milk AJ for all he's worth. They're just going to milk him. If this is the last fight, which I don't think it'll be for AJ and Sky, they're not going to charge 20 quid normal price. AJ, they're going to milk AJ for all they can work. The Sky are going to try and get as much money out of this as they can, just in case. So, no surprises there. What else do we have? The Zone. Now, this is an interesting one. Now, listen to this. The Zone have reportedly set their sights on buying BT Sports and their Premier League rights. That is absolutely massive for the Zone if that happens. Premier League football is where it's at. Now, if they get the rights to Premier League football, I'm sorry to say it, ain't no way the Zone is staying at $7.99. I mean, people who were moaning that DAZN is $7.99 now. If they get Premier League football, you will only pray that it stays $7.99, because Premier League football is where it's at. The subscription will just go with like that, because Premier League football, like, it's the biggest sport in the UK, and probably by a long way. So if they get that, that really is interesting, because they won't just get Premier League football. I would imagine Queensbury, you know, Frank Warren shows would go on DAZN as well, which would make it easier to do cross promotional, you know, fights, because they're both on DAZN. So why couldn't we get, you know, Callum Johnson versus Joshua Boazzi or something like that? You know, just makes sense to me. Amongst what other sports do BT Sport do, actually? Because I really only watch the boxing, to be honest with you. They do football. What else do BT Sport do? I'm sure they do like rugby and stuff like that. I'm sure they do. I only really, like I said, I'm not really much of a fan of other sports. I really tend to just kind of stick to boxing, bit of football and stuff like that. Interesting one about Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant is set to be on Showtime pay-per-view and not Fox pay-per-view. It's known that PBC's deal with Fox is set to expire at the end of this year, with Fox having the option to extend for a further year. So it's going to be Showtime as opposed to Fox. Interesting. I like the Showtime team, I have to say. You know, I miss Paulie Malignaggi, of course. He was very good, but Al Bernstein's alright. So Canelo's fought on Showtime before. I think his last Showtime fight was Erislandy Lara, because that was on Showtime, because he had a little deal with Showtime before he went over to HBO or back to HBO. So Showtime pay-per-view, Canelo versus Plant. I'll do a prediction close to the fight. People know my stance on that now. Sean Porter versus Terence Crawford actually got announced as well last week, which is just brilliant. I love that fight. That fight is just... How can people not like Sean Porter? He's one of my favourite welterweights stylistically, and he seems like a decent bloke. You know, he's one of those fighters who enjoy him, because he will fight anyone. He's fought Danny Garcia, he's fought Kell Brook, he's fought Errol Spence, he's fought your Dennis Ugas, he's fought Keith Thurman. Who else has he fought? Oh, he's fought others as well. I'm probably missing names, but, you know, Sean Porter, great fighter. I would say he probably is starting to slow down a little bit, but he's not slowing down a great deal. You know, he is still very, very useful at world level. The only thing is, Terence Crawford is a little bit better than your average world level world champion. Although saying that, you know, stylistically he's different to Errol Spence. I was going to say, you know, this is the man who got a split decision over Errol Spence, who felt he was unlucky. Stylistically, Crawford is different. You know, he's a proper boxer. He switch hits. He's awkward. It's a good fight. It's a great fight. I'm glad that we're seeing finally Crawford fight a PBC guy, because for me, this kind of now dispels the myth that, you know, we can't they cross the street. You know, if PBC are willing to do Crawford versus Porter, there should be no reason whatsoever that we cannot see Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. As far as I'm concerned, now that they're doing this, Spence Crawford has to happen. Has to happen. I want to see that fight so bad. I think the really peak time was 2017, 2018. That's when we really should have seen it. Now, we don't know how Errol Spence is, you know, with injuries and the car crash, but I'd still love to see that fight. Crawford versus Spence. We should get this, because PBC Top Rank, they're working together on this. Why can't they work together for, you know, Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford? Provided, of course, Crawford gets through Sean Porter. It's no mean feat. You know, people are talking, will he be the first person to stop Sean Porter? Hey, look, Sean Porter is still alive. He's still game. You know, don't count your chickens, don't count your eggs before they hatch, as they say, because Sean Porter definitely useful. So Deontay Wilder's been sparring Robert Helenius as well now. Robert Helenius sparring Deontay Wilder. It's an interesting one. Helenius, not exactly, like, from dimensions in terms of height, yeah, he would be quite similar in height to Tyson Fury. Big long guy, and he's about 6'6", big puncher as well, so, and probably a bigger punch, probably more heavy-handed than Tyson Fury is Robert Helenius. Is not as skillful, of course, as Tyson Fury, certainly not, but you know, in terms of, you know, dimensions and probably sheer, you know, brute force, Robert Helenius ain't a bad choice for a sparring partner for Deontay Wilder. Definitely not a bad choice. Oh, some boxing, some signings now. Sky and Wasserman, alright, have announced the signing of Josh Kelly and Nathan Gorman. So we've got one fighter leaving Eddie Hearn and one fighter leaving Frank Warren, both signing with Sky and Wasserman. Now, Nathan Gorman, what really more could Frank Warren do with him? Like, realistically, what more could Frank Warren really do with Nathan Gorman? You know, they were never going to put him in there with Joe Joyce. He'd get absolutely smashed up against Joe Joyce. Dubois has already beaten him. So, you know, if he's making more money on Sky, makes a bit of sense. Josh Kelly said he was offered deals from Eddie Hearn and Sky, and the Sky deal was better. In my opinion, whoever's offered, you as a boxer have so long to make good sums of money, career, life-changing sums of money. If someone else is paying you more, you go. You go. There's no reason being loyal to that promoter. He can make money after you've retired. He can make vast amounts of money after you've retired. You only have so long to make the money. So you try your best. You make that bag. You know, if you need to split from your long-time promoter, no room for loyalty. No room for loyalty in boxing. That's pretty much the week in a nutshell. So we got plenty of fights announced. Like I said, pleasantly surprised about Dillian Whyte. Parker Chisora 2, meh. You know, Sean Porter versus Terence Crawford. Brilliant. I'm happy with that. You know, I'm very happy about that fight. That fight's going to be excellent. I'm saying it here. That fight's going to be excellent. I think that fight's going to be just. I'm very excited about that. Obviously, we got to talk about what's happening this Saturday. Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk. Recording the prediction video. I was going to do it tonight, but lads, I'm just tired. I'm just jaded. So I'm going to do it tomorrow. Might even upload it tomorrow evening or Tuesday morning, depending on how much time I have. But we're in a fight week. I don't know. We're in a fight week, but I'm just praying. And I'm hoping I'm not going to jinx this again. But I'm just praying that neither got. No, you know what I mean? That we don't get one of those. You know what? I just hope this fight happens. I really do. I just hope this fight happens. I'm doing a prediction video. Hopefully tomorrow evening I'll have that up for you guys to watch. And watch the space. I'll do that prediction video and watch the... My history with Usyk is terrible. I do a video on Usyk. Oh, something's come up. So watch the space. If this fight gets binned Tuesday morning, pitchforks at the ready for your boy. There you go. But for now, I'm going to call that quit there. I think that's pretty much most of the news. If I've missed anything, do feel free to let me know. I think I pretty much covered it all there. Oh, but no. Billy Joe Saunders. I even have it in the thumbnail. Billy Joe Saunders been having his say on Eubank Jr. You know, what do you guys think? Do we think we're going to get Eubank versus Saunders too? I reckon if Sky put up enough money, we'll get that fight. We'll get that rematch. Would Billy Joe be as motivated for a Eubank rematch as he would after the Canelo fight? I guess for bragging rights, Billy Joe would probably be definitely motivated for a Eubank rematch because he doesn't like Eubank. He doesn't like him. And I guess for Billy Joe to be able to brag and say, look, I didn't beat Canelo, but I still beat you twice. I think Billy Joe would be motivated sufficiently enough to get in really good shape. He looked in bad shape. Let's not beat around the bush here. He was interviewed by Umar and he looked, from my eyes, he looked in not great shape. Aesthetically. Looked like it looked like he was pregnant. You know, maybe that was the clothes he was wearing. But for me, he didn't look in good shape at all. Now bear in mind, we're in September. It was May. You know, it does amaze me. And it's not just Billy Joe, it's other fighters. It amazes me how you see some fighters, they're looking in great shape, you know, on fight night. And I mean, like, not long. Like, we're talking 3 months, 4 months. They're looking like, you know, your dad. Your middle-aged dad. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. Because, like, I've gone through times where I've not been eating the best. But still been training. And I've gained barely any weight. because I'm still, you know, training? Are these guys literally just sitting around all day doing like literally nothing but eating KFC and pizza? Because I just wonder how they can gain so much weight so quick. It just baffles me. Anyway, that's just on another note. For now, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you could, like, hit subscribe. We've been growing brilliantly lately, you know. We get to 6k and then we get to 10k. That's the goal. Probably not going to happen by the end of the year, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. But we get to 10k and I'll be so happy whenever we get there. Maybe next year at some stage. But for now, thank you for everything. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope your Monday's going well. I hope the phone rings with good news for all you people. And for now, I'll talk to you. Peace.